Welcome to another episode of the Zebra Influencer Series. I'm Scott Reyes, your Senior ISV Manager for Manufacturing, Transportation, and Logistics. I have the distinct honor of working with our ISV and alliance organizations that focus on innovation and resolving operational challenges for our customers. In my function, I get to help them navigate the Zebra ecosystem. Here at Zebra, we are so committed to our customers. We take pride in looking into the future and not only anticipating the needs of our customers, but we work with our partners to create solutions that help resolve those needs and work alongside our partners to bring them to market. Our special guest today has a master's degree from the University of Alabama and is a national sales manager with 10 years of experience working in the rugged mobility space, specializing in growth at Havis by building complex go-to-market strategies into new customer segments outside of public safety and utilities. Sam is a powerful force in the workplace and uses his positive attitude and tireless energy to encourage others to work hard and succeed. In his free time, Sam likes to ride his mountain bike, play video games, and has just completed a certificate of professional development in leadership at the Wharton School in Philadelphia. Let us welcome Sam Burrell to the virtual stage.
Hey, Scott. Thank you for the introduction. I'm very excited to be here and looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, Sam, so let's jump right in. For our audience, can you tell them a little bit more about Havis and give us a brief overview of who Havis is and where you guys play?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a proud story, so happy to go through it with everyone that may not be familiar with us. We are an American manufacturer and designer of our products. The products that we make are for mobile office solutions. So to define that or give examples of that, think of a police officer, think of a local utility worker that may be in a bucket truck working on the power lines outside of your house. These are mobile offices. If you peek inside of those vehicles, you'll undoubtedly see a cell phone, a tablet, a laptop, all secured inside that vehicle. And that is where we live. We make the mounting and docking solutions for those mobile offices and do it in a very responsible way. And we do that out of our headquarters, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. It's a northern suburb in Warminster, Pennsylvania. And that's where the majority, call it 95% of all of our manufacturing is done. Now we do have an injection molding facility. It's relatively new to Havis. I believe we purchased it 5-6 years ago, and that's 4 miles down the road from our main facility in Warminster. We also have a facility outside of Detroit, Michigan in Plymouth. Very important to have a representation in the Detroit area because of the proximity to the vehicle manufacturers that are there. We want to be as close to them as we can be. But out of this facility, we house all of our electrical and mechanical engineers that design and even work on warranty for our docking station product lines. Now, we are happy to introduce an acquisition that we recently made with a company named ENS. ENS is in Minneapolis, a suburb of Minneapolis in the southern side in Burnsville, Minnesota. And this group specializes in payment terminal stands, whether they're fixed, meaning a kiosk, or a payment touchscreen for checkouts, or they could be mobile in nature as well, combining different payment terminal styles. And we're very happy to bring them into the Havis family. They work with 85% of the tier 1 U.S. retailers today. So immediately we have grown by acquisition into a number of different customer segments that we didn't have a reach with, say, a year and a half ago. And to give an example of the growth of Havis, 10 years ago and 12 years ago in 2010, we had roughly 120 employees, and that's full-time employees. And today we have 450 dedicated factory team members. We work on 3 full-time operating shifts now, and we have the largest sales team in the industry with we're for the better part of 200 employees around the U.S. We also have strong representation in EMEA and Canada as well. So there's a brief history of who we are and what we're about.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam. Can you tell us a little more about how you innovate in the verticals you guys support?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to cross a number of different vertical segments. So my answer is going to change depending on who the end user actually is. As you move between different customer segments, what you find is your business model for one may not be the same for the other. So we have to bring innovation in different forms depending on our end user customer segments that we've targeted and want to sell equipment to. So on we could do this in a number of ways. We could innovate with product. We can innovate with our resources. And that's one example I'm going to give you now. On the sales side, we've added recently vertical specific sales specialists that will help us with certain markets like the energy market. We've got a very talented individual now that is working with our geographically based sales team to to expand our reach into the utility or energy space. We have very strong relationships with our end users. For example, the public safety market. So we obviously value their opinions and get a ton of feedback from them and bring that feedback back into engineering so we can innovate our products to be more relevant to them. And from a channel perspective, we're innovating in the way that we're creating the path to the end users. As we go into customer segments that we haven't worked with before, we've realized that our existing reseller network wasn't the path that these new acquisition style customers were using. So we've innovated in how we reach our end users by developing a very strong distribution model and working with the ecosystem within the major global distributors that all seem to be based in the Greenville, South Carolina area. And our engineering, another example, our engineerings do a great job of working and leveraging our relationships with the ecosystem that make up the total mobility solution and incorporating all of their feedback into our research and design, making sure that the final product that we release is as relevant as possible with that end user and will work with their ecosystem of products around it, whether it be a printer, scanner, license plate reader, barcode scanner, whatever that may be. We have to leverage those relationships and innovate with them to support the verticals.
Well, excellent. That sounds amazing that you guys are growing into these new spaces. And it's great to hear that you guys are doing something different as you guys are acquiring new organizations. Can you expand a little bit on your strategy for continued expansion?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's done a couple of different ways. One that I've obviously already mentioned is we are expanding through acquisition. In the past 13 or so years, we've purchased three different companies to make up the Havis family. In 2009, we purchased Ledco, which is our Detroit office that I mentioned earlier. Ledco was a company that specialized in electronics and docking stations specifically for to support the rugged computer manufacturers. So we purchased them in 2009 and brought them into the fold. In 2016, we purchased Havis Molding, which was a plastic injection molding company. Luckily, this one was about 5 miles down the street from our headquarters in Warminster. And a little glimpse into our company here. We've been metal experts for roughly 80 years, but we've realized over time, and especially as computer devices have become smaller and lighter, that we could leverage plastics where metal used to be the only material we used. So as metal experts, we had to expand our knowledge. And so we bought that knowledge by purchasing an injection molding company that already existed. Now we reinvested into that company, brought it up to speed with the latest and greatest machinery available. And now we are metal experts and plastic experts as well. And I just mentioned ENS brought into the fold or acquired last year in 2021. So there's another American manufacturer that specializes in payment terminal systems and warehousing products that complement us very well and help us to grow. So there's one very obvious strategy if you've been paying attention to us for the last decade or so. Another expansion strategy, is reinvesting back into our own company. One example I love to talk about here is our owners give back to our company and enable it to stay on the front edge of technology shifts. And we were the first U.S. manufacturer to bring in a specific type of laser punch machine. It's a Trumatic machine made by a German company, Trumpf, Trumpf. So to be a small family-run American manufacturing company and to have the first punch laser machine ever brought into the United States is an excellent illustration of how we are using reinvestment as a strategy to expand our organization. Now we have 3 of those machines. We have 6 press brakes, which is a different type machine from Trumpf. So that reinvestment never stops. And like I mentioned, with the Havis molding facility that's 5 miles from our headquarters, we've also thrown away all their old machines and purchased new ones that are more efficient, they're cleaner, and it really creates a safer environment and one where we could get to market as fast as humanly possible.
Excellent, Sam. I mean, with all that expansion, those strategies you guys have in expanding, I guess the next logical question is, what verticals are you guys looking to tackle next?
Right, yeah, and that's a long answer. I've got a long list of customer segments that we would love to be in. Well, let me just start by saying where we came from, and that's the public safety, the fire, the EMS market. So that first responder network is where we were born 80 years ago. And we've got an incredible amount of market share in that space. We're very relevant with that customer segment, with that vertical. So to grow outside of it has taken some time. We've been actively doing it for the better part of 10 years now. The closest customer type to public safety that we're expanding into successfully is the energy department. So all the utility companies around the U.S., whether they're small co-ops that service a regional geographic location within a state, or they could be large energy companies that cross Illinois to Florida, for example, and cross a number of our geographic sales locations. So that market is definitely one that we're expanding into successfully. Local utilities as well have been a customer segment that we're doing well in, and that are your local water boards, your local gas boards, for example, and even the local state and local utilities like transportation companies. So your bus transit system is also using tablets in them today, whether, as 10 years ago, they probably didn't have any technology in their trucks or in their buses. So there's another great way for us, or a great path for us to follow to grow. Material handling has been an amazing one with warehouse automation. Customers that are driving forklifts are moving away from pen and paper to go pick orders, for example. Now they've got a tablet mounted securely on the forklift that tells them where to go, what to pick up, and where to drop it off. And we're seeing a lot of ROI and fast ROI from our customers that are moving away from pen and paper in that space and more into technology-driven adopting tablets, for example. So after material handling, we have other customer segments that we're eager to work with, like field service organizations, federal waste management, transportation companies, and specifically ELD, which is a federal mandate that's driving the adoption of electronic logging devices in trucks. We've got the telecom industry, commercial industry, and we just acquired ENS. So we have now tapped into the retail space, the hospitality space, and also some financial services as well.
Wow, with all those new verticals that you guys are tapping into, I guess the other thought that comes to mind is the designs have to be different. Can you tell us more about the design philosophy that Havis has?
Yeah, and that's spot on. That's a great call out. While the products may look differently in each one of these customer segments, and in some of them there is a big difference between the two, we still design all of our products with 3 main philosophies or tenets, and that's comfort, safety, and quality. And really, safety drives, that word safety means everything to us in terms of how we design our products. And what we found is we have a very high safety standard that all of our products need to meet before we release them to the public. And some of the examples of the safety tests that we perform on our products are barrier crash testing. We'll crash test our products from the front, the side and the rear to make sure that in a vehicle accident that the device does not become a projectile. It stays docked securely in the vehicle and doesn't provide something that can hurt the operator. We do operational vibe tests. These are not normal things to mount and dock a laptop into a truck. They're on dirt roads. There's potholes. They're off-road sometimes with fish and wildlife customers. So we need to make sure that the products are as safe as possible. And because of that, we have to use the highest quality materials in order to pass these safety tests. And lastly, comfort. Depending on the customer segment, they all define comfort a little differently. But what we have found is the more comfortable the operators are, the more efficient they become. They fill out the paperwork completely the first time, and they do it with a lot of detail. If they are uncomfortable, for example, if they have to reach a long way for the keyboard, they're not going to fill out that paperwork completely the first time. They're going to cut corners if they even use it at all. They'll probably tell the organization the device doesn't work anymore and move on to pen and paper, which is what they've been used to for 10 to 15 years. So design philosophy, even though the products look a little different between customer segments, it's still all around our main philosophy of comfort, safety, and quality.
Thank you, Sam. So comfort, safety, and quality. In those segments, and can you provide us what a typical customer challenges that you guys are looking to resolve? I know you mentioned a couple before, but maybe you can expand on what those challenges look like.
Right. One we've experienced almost on a daily basis over the last 10 years has been how to transition customers from laptop users to tablet users. And this is just one example of some of the things that we do to solve problems. Say this customer is an existing Havis customer and they have had a laptop for the last 15 to 20 years in their vehicles. And now, as we all know, tablets have matured to a point from a consumer standpoint first, and then also from a rugged standpoint second. They have made their way into vehicles of all types, and we've had to transition as best we can from that laptop mounting setup to hold a tablet now with possibly an external ruggedized keyboard. Now, that's not an easy thing, and when we first ran into that probably 8 years ago, we had to scramble a little bit, add adapters, make different products on the fly to say to our customers, you can reuse your existing mounting equipment or as much as possible, which is our philosophy. We don't like to rip out all old product, whether it's ours or our competitors. If it's stable enough and good enough in the vehicle to hold our equipment on top of it, even if it's our competitive products, we will encourage the customer to leave it in the vehicle and build off the top of it. So that is one thing that we've done and had to become very good at over the last better part of 10 years is transitioning from laptop systems to mounting and docking the tablet systems in those vehicles.
Very good. I guess it wasn't a natural thought of that wasn't the challenge I was thinking of or was going to be a challenge to move from laptop to tablet. But now that we're moving into tablets, can you tell me a little bit more about how all of your products actually get installed either in the car or in the lift?
Yeah, no problem. Now, if you live within 100 miles of our headquarters in Warminster, Pennsylvania, we do have an installation arm of our company that can work with your organization. But for the most part, we rely on the national network of installers and upfitters that there are plenty of across the country. Sometimes our customers leverage local representation, whether it be a mom and pop installation company that's in their neighborhood. Sometimes for larger organizations that span across multiple states and territories, we leverage our relationships with national installation companies that may be more mobile in nature. They have fleets of installers that can be in multiple locations at one time. They can do anywhere from one vehicle a day to probably 15 vehicles a day, depending on how complicated the installation is. So we publish that on our website. If a company comes to us and says, hey, I need help with install, we will warmly introduce them to these companies and let them vet those companies on their own time. Each company has a different philosophy of safety, They have a different timeline on when they need their equipment installed in the vehicles. So we let them choose the best fit for them and their philosophy around how their organization works. Now, if they want to do the installation themselves, that's fine. We have installation instructions on our website for all of our products. We try to make it as easy as possible. And for the more complicated products that are may take a little longer to install, we create free YouTube video content for them to check out as well.
Oh, excellent. So in that sense, how closely do you guys work with the vehicle manufacturers?
Yeah, in short, as close as they will allow. An integral, very strategic path to success for my company and my competitors, for that matter, is how closely we can work with the vehicle manufacturers. And let me broaden that, Scott. It's also about the computer manufacturer as well, like Zebra. The closer we can work with you, the closer we can work with Ford, Chevy, Dodge, the faster we can bring quality products to market as soon as you bring your products to market. Because nobody's buying my product without buying yours first. And so if my product is delayed 6 months after you've released yours, the customer's total mobility solution is stalled and they can't install the product until companies like mine are ready to go. So the closer we can be to you and Ford, Chevy, Dodge on the vehicle side, the faster we can bring products to market, the faster the total mobility solution can be installed in our customers' vehicles, and the faster they can see the benefits from the technology, the software that they're putting in.
Sam, so that begs a question of what kind of, you mentioned the timeline as one of the challenges that we're facing with the customers and how quickly they want to get it installed. What are some of the other questions you ask your customers in preparation for purchasing Havis?
Yeah, that can vary between customer segments and the type users that we have. One question that we always ask is, what device are you trying to mount or dock into the vehicle? So one line of questions are around the actual device itself. And then you have a whole line of questions around the vehicle type that our customers are using. So what device are you using? Where do you want it mounted? Do you already have existing mounting equipment in your vehicles today, and can we build off of that? Or are we taking a fresh approach because you're moving from laptop to tablet and you want to get rid of the old mounting equipment that has traditionally been in the truck for a very long time? On the vehicle side, we need to know sometimes the year, the make, and the model of the truck or the car that we are going to be installing equipment into. On the forklift side, it gets even more complicated. We'll need to know year, make, and model, but we'll also need to know the power requirements or the power voltage range of that forklift. In the United States, you could go from a 12-volt forklift up to, say, roughly 36 or 48 volts on the electric side. Now, if you go overseas into Europe, that voltage range can jump up into the 70s. So what that means is we have to be dialed into the voltage of those vehicles to make sure that we don't inadvertently hurt the device and our docking station from uneven flows of power back through the system. So there's a lot of questions that we ask. We're made of questions when we first talk to a customer to make sure that we're offering them the right solutions, and that is the safety side and the comfortable side of it. We fit the product to match their philosophy around comfort and around safety. Now, we'll also need to dive into what peripherals they'll want to be mounted, what accessories along with my equipment will be attached to the device. And the material handling side, there's always a scanner involved. Sometimes we're seeing printers being introduced to the forklift setups. And obviously on the public safety side, they have a ton of technology, whether it be license plate readers, video cameras, onboard or on body style. They have full printers or smaller 4-inch style printers. So they have a lot of peripherals that need to be accounted for as well when building out this total solution.
Excellent. So I guess that begs the question of who within the customer do you work with to make these projects successful?
Right. Yeah. 10 years ago, I would have told you it's two people. It's the IT managers at the organization, and they're obviously responsible for the technology that's going in. So they'll make the decision around the laptop, the tablet, or the phone, what screen size, how rugged it needs to be, for example. And we would work with them to match up our docking stations or universal trays to secure it correctly in the vehicle, depending on what peripherals they're using. And then the second group that we would work with in that instance would be the fleet managers. And their responsibility is around the vehicle themselves. They're the one buying the vehicle. So we work with them to let us know what vehicles they bought, the year, make, and model, so we can match up our mounting equipment and marry that to the IT manager's solution around the device. So we sit in between these two groups and make sure that everybody's communicating as best we can, so the total mobility solution works at the end of the day. Now, that was 10 years ago. Now we've had another group or another stakeholder group enter the picture, and some organizations have started to hire teams of safety managers, and they have responsibility at the vehicle level as well. So they will sign off on or reject mounting solutions that they deem unsafe, or they'll green light a mounting system that they believe to be safe for their organization. And they have a very powerful voice within that company. And they can override what the fleet manager says, what the IT manager says, if they deem the product to be unsafe. So that's a new stakeholder we've had to adjust for and make sure that they have all their questions answered and they're comfortable with the mounting systems going in. We don't shy away from working with the safety managers because, again, one of our main tenets and driving forces behind our development of any of our products, all of our products, is around safety. So we can have that peer-to-peer conversation with them. Now, that's at the actual end user level. Those are the three groups that we mainly work with today. But we also work with the ecosystem partners as well that I've mentioned, the printer manufacturers, the camera manufacturers, the scanner manufacturers. We have to make sure that our products will work with theirs as well. So we work with them as much as possible to make sure the project's successful. And I'll go back to this again. We have to get end user feedback early and often to make sure that our products are as relevant as possible. So it's a long answer there. There's a lot of people in those four groups that we work with, but we've got a sales team that's large enough that we can manage that.
Now, do any of those stakeholders ask you about your manufacturing process? Or maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your manufacturing process.
Yeah, happy to. Sometimes they ask about it. We certainly like letting our domestic customers know that we are an American manufacturer. That seems to resonate well with them. We are a family-run organization. Again, from 120 people in 12 years to over 450. Our growth has been very, I'd say astronomical is a good word to use. So for my 10 and a half years here at Havis, we've had a maturation process internally to become more vertically integrated than we were before I was hired. Not to say I drove any of that, just to say I've recognized it. And now we have brought as much as we can internally in our manufacturing process. So today versus 10 years ago, today we buy, for example, sheet metal in bulk, and we'll stack it up depending on the pricing trends in the market. We'll buy at the lowest prices we can. And then after that, we'll design it, we'll fabricate, assemble, weld, paint, mold, we'll pad print, we'll test the devices or the product before we send to packing, to send to shipping. And all of that is done in-house, mostly all done in Warminster, Pennsylvania. So becoming more vertically integrated has been a key part of our manufacturing process in the last 10 years. And a quick story around what it means to the customer. The latest thing I've noticed us bringing in-house is the pad printing process. So before we would finish our products, we would ship it 5 miles away to a company down the road, and they would pad print our logo onto the products. Now, our products are different sizes, different shapes, sometimes different colors. And so our logo would come back different sizes, different shapes, and sometimes different colors. Now, for a company that prides itself on quality, the out-of-box experience for our end users wasn't quite where we wanted it to be with that method. So we brought that in-house. We purchased our own pad printing machine, roughly 5, 6 years ago. And now we have a dedicated clean room with temperature control that pad prints our own products to our standards correctly every time. So one example of vertical integration and how it impacts what the customer views, how the customer views us, and what lens they view us through. And so that's been a big help for us so far.
So talking about vertical integration and all that you guys are doing in that process, can you tell us what trends you're seeing in the verticals you support?
Yeah, absolutely. And my answer is going to change here a little bit depending on the customer segment. But I do have also some general thoughts around what our overall customer groups are seeing, because they're all doing the same thing. They're all adding technology to the vehicles they use. Just the vehicle type changes and how they use the equipment may change, but they're still all adding the same things to their vehicles. So I do have some general over outline as well of what we're seeing in the field. But specific to verticals, our utility customers today, over the last 5, 6 years, they have been entertaining moving away from rugged and into the consumer grade tablet world, specifically iOS and Apple iPads. But what we've seen in the last 2 to 3 years, since I believe 2019, and it's hard to say it's a trend because COVID did slow everything down, but it's still going strong today, 3 years later, is mass adoption of iOS and the Apple iPad in the utility space. We're working with accounts now that are looking to not just add iOS devices to business units within their total organization, but to actually remove all rugged and company-wide go Apple iOS, which is a definite trend, definite shift from fully rugged that we've seen this customer group buy for 20 years now. So we've had to adjust to that. We don't know how long it's going to last, of course. It may flip back to fully rugged. It may flip back to a semi-rugged or rugged enough philosophy. But right now we are seeing that trend on the utility side. If I jump over to the transportation customers, and specifically 18-wheelers on the road, the federal mandate, the ELD mandate, has driven that group of workers to adopt tablets into their trucks. So before they would say, hey, I drove 12 hours today, and they would sign a piece of paper saying, I started then, and then I finished at this point. You can trust me. This is how long I drove. But now, because of the shift to electronic logging devices that is measuring vehicle systems, there's a more accurate measure of how long they've been driving, and when they are dictated to take breaks, when they are told to spend the night versus keep driving through the night. And that has certainly been a trend that we've seen, that group has had to add technology to their trucks. And another trend within that is that they have mostly standardized on very inexpensive consumer grade Android devices. They have not seen a need for rugged in this space. They haven't seen a need for laptops necessarily, but that 8-inch, maybe 10-inch consumer grade tablet has been a sweet spot for that group. Now we have multiple segments, customer segments, that are testing and sometimes adopting a new philosophy around how to incorporate technology into their vehicles, and that's around the phone. Our phones today are more powerful than our computers were, full-blown laptops were 10, 12, 20 years ago. So to leverage that, knowing that each, say, police officer or utility worker carries a phone on them anyway, let's leverage that and dock that phone into the truck or the car, broadcast that screen or mirror that screen onto a larger Havis ruggedized monitor that's 12 inches. And now they could be more productive using the applications that are on the phone that are being driven to a larger screen to where they can fill out that paperwork completely the first time. So that screen mirroring technology around cell phones has been a huge trend for us that we've added new products to. We've had to innovate to solve our customers' problems. And we've had some large customers adopt this technology, and we're in the rollout phases now. We expect this to continue. The manufacturers that are focused in this space have committed to it, And so we expect our end users to be adopting it over time. Now, those are vertical specific answers to that question. But generally speaking, over all of our customer segments, and even us personally at home, we're all having to adopt to the 5G implementation across the US. That technology adoption requires sometimes purchasing new computers that are 5G compliant. And I'd like to take that one step further. One of our partners here, new partners in the last 6 months, is a company called FirstNet. Now, FirstNet is, and now I may be getting this wrong, but I believe they're a subsidiary or a different company, but they are an AT&T company, and they won a contract with the government to offer a dedicated communication platform for our first responders and our secondary group of customers, like utility companies, like venue companies, hospitals, critical infrastructure companies that need to have a dedicated phone line if a disaster happens. If you think about 9/11, when the towers went down, that area lost all their communications. No first responder could communicate with anybody because they had no way of doing it. This FirstNet network, if you are eligible to receive it, you will have a dedicated phone line that does not throttle in any way. So that's a partner that we have been introduced to in the last year that we've been working with closely, and they are accelerating the adoption of 5G across all of our customer segments that are eligible for it. Now, there's a long list of other trends that we're seeing in the verticals, some that we are all a part of, and that's supply chain issues, that's fuel cost issues. But those are things we really can't control at the moment. They're high level. Maybe we can build resiliency in our supply chains, and this has been a catalyst for us to do that. But overall, we're still struggling with that a little bit ourselves. EV adoption has been a big trend that we've seen across the industry, and we believe that will continue to move forward. When you have a company like Ford that says, hey, we're not going to make cars anymore, and now our trucks are going to be electric, and here's the new factories to support that, you know they're serious about creating EVs. And we're not even talking about the startups that have popped up over the last few years that have won major contracts with the Amazons, the UPSs of the world. So EV adoption is certainly something we're paying attention to, and automation across the vehicles in general.
Sam, thank you for that. So let's touch a little bit upon some of the trends that you mentioned, the consumer trends in the utility space, and what we're doing in there together, right? So Zebra and Havis have a partnership that started early last year to develop enterprise-grade rugged solutions for the public safety and government verticals. Zebra, in addition to the Android, brings longer product life cycles and unprecedented amount of control over standard consumer grade devices. So I think these are some of the things that we're bringing to the table that are different in modifying what we're doing based on consumer trends. And I believe the second thing that you mentioned is really more about on the ELD side or on the transportation side, where we're bringing Workstation Connect. So where you can take a device like ours, a rugged mobile device or rugged mobile tablet, and dock it and now have a full, almost laptop setup inside of the vehicle. So instead of having one device for each individual solution or operations, now you can take a rugged mobile device like the one I have behind here, take it, dock it, and now you have a full, whether it's a tablet or laptop type feel when you're in the field. I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
No, just that I agree with you. That is one of the main trends that we've seen that we are monitoring very closely. One company is leading the way in that space, and we're looking forward to others doing the same. And we'll be ready to adapt to it, and make sure that we're mounting and docking all the technology around it in a responsible way when the technology is ready to go.
And on a personal note, I know this is you don't know this about me, but that first net conversation we were just having and ensuring that everyone has the right communications at the right time, for me is personal because I was down there in downtown Manhattan during 9/11. So for me, it's a personal thing and a personal memory.
Yeah, that's powerful. So you understand in times like that, and that's worst case scenario. Okay, but there's also tornadoes. There's also hurricanes. These things are devastating to local communities across the U.S. And it seems that I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and it seems like we have a tornado warning every 6 to 7 days. So if you cut communication to people, um, everything that needs to happen after that takes longer, and there's panic involved with it. If we can calm that down, if we have a dedicated line that's always up, and then the comms, we're not lost across these customers, across personal people at home, we'll be in a much better situation.
Sam, thank you for that. Can you explain a little bit more about how Havis is creating differentiation in the market?
Yeah, happy to go into that. And I think my main answer here, forget about the factory and forget about us reinvesting into ourselves and the acquisitions that we're making and the growth that we're experiencing that way. I'm going to answer this in maybe a slightly different way, and that's to talk about our people, the most important part of our company, and specifically the sales industry or the sales arm of our company. That is the biggest differentiator that I can see that we have. We've got the largest sales team in the industry, and we've got representation in every single state in the US. We've got representation in Canada. We've got representation overseas in EMEA. So when you think about a customer that says, Havis, I'd like to demo this product to see if it fits into my organization. Well, the way we handle a simple request like that is to say, well, we can send you this part and you can install it yourself and you can try to make it work, which you could probably do, no problem. Or because we have the largest sales team in the industry, and by the way, we've got 40 to 50 demo vehicles floating around the US at any given point in time, we can be at your facility to show you that specific product installed into a vehicle, to show you what right looks like, to see if that's truly something you want to move forward with, and demo maybe in a broader set of vehicles in your facility. So our time to the customer, and the ability to be in front of them with the relevant products as quickly as possible, sometimes less than a week, sometimes around the 2 week mark, versus just mailing them equipment and hoping they install everything correctly, is a very, very powerful thing. When we do that, and we do that correctly, we reduce the sales cycle time, sometimes months. And so we make everybody happier that way, because these folks that are in the field are always following back up with the customers. They can help troubleshoot. They can help be that voice between us and the customer. So our sales team is our biggest differentiator. And when it works correctly, we are very difficult to beat from our competitors' standpoint.
Well, Sam, are there any last thoughts you'd like to leave with the audience?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Well, I'd like to say we're early developing a relationship with Zebra and yourself. So I'd like to say that we're looking forward to growing our relationship as wide as we can globally. We are currently working on a number of projects to support devices that you're coming to market with. So I believe the relationship between Havis and Zebra is going to be a successful one in the future, and we're looking forward to what that looks like.
I agree, Sam. Thank you very much. Sam, on behalf of Zebra Technologies, thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience. As mentioned earlier, we invite our audience to contact their partners, Zebra representative, or Sam and his team to discuss further about Havis. I want to thank you all for your time and interest. Remember, Zebra and our ISV and Alliance community are committed to your success.